With no idea on where to go, I headed toward the area where I'd been staying with the Venties. I was very lonely, sad, and everything seemed to be hopeless, pretty hopeless. But that just became the norm for my life. I ended up sleeping at the Venties ranch. A little bit of hay behind some bales was okay for a bed, but at least I got to be near the horses. One thing that amazes me when I look back is how I made it. I mean, I don't remember eating or changing clothes. I didn't have any money. It wasn't very long before I got caught. I don't remember how, but I did. This short period of my life seems a little blurry. But just know on my court date, they released me back home to my mother. I think my probation officer must have thought I didn't deserve to be placed in another foster home. Venties was my seventh foster home. The first two were not because I got in trouble, but because the state thought my mom could not take care of me and my brother. I remember my probation officer making a comment to me, something to the effect of the Venties did me wrong, and that Mr. Venti didn't get to where he's at without stepping on a few toes. I went back to live with my mom in our apartment in East L.A., where I continued to attend Hollenbach Junior High. There was a girl who I thought was the prettiest girl in the whole school. She had these beautiful green eyes. If I can just get to look at those between classes, boy, my day just got a lot better. One day she was visiting someone who lived in my apartments, and she spoke to me because there was no way I was going to have the courage to speak to her first. I mean, I was so shy when it came to girls. Her name was Evangelina, but they called her Green Eyes. Eventually, we became pretty close. I would walk her home every day after school, sometimes with my arm around her, but never was brave enough to kiss her. I met one of her neighbors who they call Mundi, and he's seen us by the market. Comes right up to us and says, "Just kiss her already." Then she said, "Tell him, Mundi." And I still did not kiss her. I mean, she was so pretty. And looking back to then and even now, I have a very hard time believing that anybody would want someone like me. From a very early age, I had to deal with a lot of rejection from my mom, the things she would say to me about nobody wanting me and how she wished she never had me or my father didn't want me. Looking like my father and having his name was a curse. The way my brother treated me, I mean, the first foster home we were in, our foster parents chose to keep him and get rid of me. And I was only 8 years old. I mean, sure, I deserved to get kicked out from foster home to foster home, with the exception of the most recent Venties. I ended up becoming friends with this guy they call Mundi. He was pretty cool. My mom started kicking me out at the age of 13, and Mundi would let me sleep at his house. His mom didn't seem to mind. Mundi had a few brothers and sisters. One day I took Mundi to El Sereno, where we broke into a house. It just so happened to be the home of a drug dealer. After we went through the whole house, we had some stuff by the door ready to go. But there was this little closet that was locked with the deadbolt on it. I just could not let it go. So I told Mundi to keep watch while I got this big type of barbecue fork from the kitchen and went to town on that door. When I finally got it open, I thought there was really nothing good in there until I looked at the top shelf above the clothes. Wow, I couldn't believe my eyes. Stacks of cash, and little balloons, which I did not know at the time were filled with heroin. Mundi called to me and said, "What's in there?" I didn't even answer. I was just filling my pockets. Mundi came and grabbed what I had left. We left that house, and all I kept thinking was, there's no way we're gonna get away with this money. We made it to the McDonald's in City Terrace, right off the 10 freeway. Went into the bathroom and counted the money. We had over $7,000. For a couple of eighth graders back in 1974, this was a junk of money. We had the money in a brown paper bag. That night, we hid it in Mundi's kitchen. When we woke up the next morning, the first thing we did was check the money and see it and seen that there was a hole in the bag. We quickly counted it and seen there was $400 missing. We told Moody's oldest brother, and that we suspected the middle brother, who didn't seem to be very smart. But boy, was he smart enough to find that money. The oldest brother went to him and retrieved the money and returned it to me. The oldest brother had a little plan of his own. Later, he would get me to buy one of those old lowrider cars, which at the time were called bombs, for $1,200. I had him take me and Moody to the Yamaha dealer in Alhambra. There, I bought 2 brand new Yamaha YZ80 dirt bikes for me and Mundi. This was by far the coolest thing I've ever owned, and boy did I cherish that thing. I can't remember exactly how we ended up riding these bikes to the city of Montebello, where we would then get busted by the cops for not only riding on the streets, but after they searched us, they found that I was carrying a few thousand cash money on me. And whatever lie I told them as to where I got it, they were not having it and took both of us to jail. Man alive. Not only did they have 2 of our brand new bikes, but they had all my cash, and I'm in jail again. I was really stressing when suddenly the cell door opens and in walks Mundi's oldest brother with this cop right behind him, practically yelling at me and winking his eye, asking me why I did it. I was baffled. I had no idea what was going on. Then he said, "You know I was saving that money to get married. Why did you take it?" I quickly caught on and said something like, "It was Mooney's idea." The next thing I knew, we were all out of there with the cash and the 2 bikes, which were technically bought by him. I just gave him the money. Eventually, my mom let me come back to the home. Maybe it had something to do with me buying her a 1967 Chevy Impala SS just before I was pretty much out of money. Of course, I brought my Yamaha with me, which I chained to the gas meter just below our window. Mundi and his family decided to move to Delano, California. In the middle of the night, on their way out of town, they decided to come up to my place with some bolt cutters and take my Yami with them. When I woke up the next morning and seen the cut chain just laying there, I knew who took it. Immediately went to Mundi's house and found it empty. I was so broken up about the bike. That same day, I decided to go out and break into another house, hoping I would steal enough money to buy another one. But I got sloppy that day, and I got busted for burglary in the city of Alhambra. The day I went to court, my mother showed up, and later my aunt would tell me how she cursed out the lady whose house I broke into. I think maybe that car I bought her kind of let her know I did love her. The judge would sentence me to 6 to 8 months to a place called Guadalupe Home for Boys, which was in the Yucaipa Mountains just past San Bernardino, California. This place was basically 4 large dorms. Though the judge only gave me 6 to 8 months, I ended up doing 15 and a half for getting into so much trouble while I was in there. I went AWOL, but got caught on the freeway on-ramp. Starting fires was a little problem I had. When I was 5, I lit myself on fire and started screaming. My mother quickly woke up and with her hands put me out. Back then, PJs were totally flammable. My mother was so mad, so she just threw me in the room and I went out the window and ran to my grandma's. And for some strange reason, I said my mom burned me. I think she got me good for that one. I think she got me good for that lie, because when we were walking back from the doctor's, she took her cigarette and put it out right on the side of my face. Not too long after that, I lit another fire down the street, for which the fire department came and put it out. Nobody ever found out that it was me who started it. I ended up with these big scars on my chest, and for a long time, I was very embarrassed about them. But when I lit this fire in the boys' home, I almost got another charge, but caught a break and just got more time at the home. When I finally was released back home, to my mom's, I was now 16 years old, closer to adulthood. Something that one of the counselors in the juvenile hall had told me implanted itself in my mind. He said, I know your type. You're the type that goes right from juvenile hall straight to prison. I don't know if he knew how much he helped me. That very moment, and though I did not answer him, in my mind I said, you're wrong. That is never going to happen. Not to me. When I got back, I decided to change everything. The way I dressed. Before I was a cholo, I was wearing khakis and Pendletons, typical gangster clothing. And I was claiming to be from a gang called White Fence, though I never actually got jumped in. Now, I began hanging with my cousin Joe. Joe lived in El Sereno and was just about 3 years younger than me. And all of his friends were now my friends. And since I was older, they thought I was pretty cool. Joe was into Pop Warner football, and most of these girls were cheerleaders. Joe introduced me to this girl named Desiree, who was very cute with long hair and a rocking body. We would go down her house for swimming parties, but I still was pretty shy when it came to girls. Desiree's mom really wanted me to hook up with Desiree, and eventually we did. The next thing I knew, I was spending every day with her and her mom. Her mom would spend lots of money on us, taking us here and there. I remember once we were at the park watching one of the football games, and her mom says to me, I told Desiree if she wants to have sex, I would get her some birth control. Though I did not respond, I realized what she was saying. Soon, we started having sex. The first time was in my car, which was the one I bought for my mom before I got busted. But after I got out, she kind of gave it back to me. Desiree was a virgin, and once we got started, we were on fire for each other. I mean, we were having sex 2 to 3 times every day. If my mom left the house, her mom would drop her off and pick her up an hour later. Or if her mom took us somewhere, she would leave us in the car and we would get busy. We'd ditch school and go to her house. I was having the time of my life, but I didn't realize what I was getting myself wrapped up in, both physically and emotionally. And this thing, I had no idea of how to handle a relationship. This went on for, I guess, about a year before Desiree, who was really promiscuous, started cheating on me. One day, I was talking to my buddy Danny, who I went to school with at lunch time, and he started telling me about this hot girl that he hooked up with. And when he went on, I realized he was talking about Desiree. So after school, we both went to her house. I had him go up first and start talking with her. Then I walked up and confronted her. And as hard as it is to believe, she smacked both of us with one swing and ran in the house. I was out of control, and in my efforts to control Desiree and stop her from cheating, I started slapping her. Her father found out and ended our relationship. I could not stay away. I was so infatuated with her. I was burning up inside. All the while I'm hearing how she's with this guy and that guy, even my own cousin. It got so bad that I would get high, go around her house starting trouble. Twice stone stupid, I went down while her dad and uncles were there. Both times they beat me up. Not too bad, but they had me arrested. The cops did not seem to think these charges were very serious. So they released me and ordered me to come back for a court date, which I never did show. All that hot sex and fun times with Desiree sure came at a very high price. I was in some serious pain, in which it would take me a long time to recover. I met a couple of nice looking girls named Isabel and Linda, not before I graduated from Wilson High School. We became pretty close. We'd party, go to concerts. We would pretty much hang together every day. I really liked Isabel and wanted to get more serious with her, but she had heard about me and Desiree and did not want to hook up. Linda really seemed to like me, but I did not want to hook up with her. She lived in a nice home, but I don't think she got the love she needed and seemed kind of reckless. One day, I went to Linda's house, and while we were sitting on the couch, we started making out, and suddenly we were a couple. I graduated from high school in 1980, and shortly after, I felt pressure to do something with my life. I had a warrant for my arrest and for failure to show to court, and had no vision of the future. So, like many a young man under the same pressures, I decided to join the Navy. I went to my local recruiting office, talked to a recruiter, and said, I would like to join as soon as possible. And 3 days later at 4 a.m., I was on the bus to San Diego. Wow. I remember sitting on that bus, looking out the window and thinking, all this mess, pain, mistakes that had been in my life was now just disappearing in what seemed to be one clean flush of the toilet. I enlisted for 4 years, and boot camp was very hard, but one of the best experiences of my life. I met so many amazing guys from all over the country. I mean, these guys were not like any guys I had ever known before. I mean, guys like me who are from the streets of L.A. and guys from better neighborhoods throughout the country seem to have an advantage in their upbringing. This bunch of guys seemed to take a special liking to me. They made me feel like I had some worth. Me and Linda were writing each other practically every day, and I really looked forward to the mail call just to hear from her. Also made me feel cared for. Everything seemed to be going great. I was a squad leader and put in charge of designing my company flag, since I was somewhat of an artist, taking after my brother Chewy. I really had a lot of love for those guys in my company, but when my character flaws started to surface, I began to get in trouble. Unable to follow the rules, my company commander called me in his office and told me I was getting sent back a week, which meant leaving my company and joining a company that was a week behind in completing boot camp. I was broken up about it and having to say goodbye to these guys. When I told them I was leaving, without telling me, they got together as a large group and compelled our company commander to give me one more chance, and he agreed. These guys stepped up in a big way for me. So much that remembering after all these years, this really touches my heart. I had never had anybody looking out or caring for me like those guys did. Reality soon kicked in, and me being just a punk from East L.A., I blew it again and was sent back a week and had to leave the company. I had to go what was called a captain's mast, which is where they officially demote you. I was so angry at myself, at the situation that I was confronted by this big shot officer wearing all these gold bars, and I totally disrespected him, telling him I did not care what you do to me, probably using much worse language. So instead of sending me to another company that was a week behind, he sent me for a 2-week punishment in these barracks, where it would be just me and this big black guy. These barracks had about 50 beds, but just me and him were there. It was connected to these offices where the officers were. I don't remember the titles they were wearing. I don't remember their titles, but they were wearing a lot of gold. It was also attached to these other barracks full of guys who were either getting out or trying to get out of the Navy, who were there so long their hair already was getting long again, because you see, when you first get into boot camp, they shave all your hair off. While me and this black guy started talking, he was saying he just wanted to get out of the Navy, and I was trying to talk him out of it, telling him just to stick it out and how he would regret it. But what ended up happening was he ended up changing my mind, and now I just wanted to quit the Navy. I was looking at these pictures of Linda wearing these little shorts and skimpy little blouse that she had sent me through all the letters we wrote to each other. I really wanted to go back. And since we never consummated our relationship, I thought we would quickly get busy. And boy, I was sure looking forward to doing just that. But when you want to get out of the Navy, they don't just say, hey, sorry things didn't work out, but how about some parting gifts and an honorable discharge with benefits? No, it's more like we spent a lot of money on you and we're going to hold you till you convert. And if not, we'll send you on your way with a dishonorable discharge. I needed to figure a way out. So one day in the mess hall, I was eating next to this Asian guy, and I told him my situation. And he told me that if they thought you were suicidal or even tried to commit suicide, that you would be on your way home in 72 hours. Now, I didn't know how he knew this, but he sounded like he knew. I guess lawsuits or bad press was something that the Navy did not want a part of. So what I did that night was get some utility belts that were in the barracks that me and this black friend of mine were in. Went into the bathroom and with my comb, turned off the lights. The lights did not have regular switches. I threw the belt around the plumbing and the ceiling, stood on the toilet paper dispenser and waited. Every hour, these two guys who were on night watch would make their rounds. This is something that all of us had to do at some time or another. I already pulled night watch myself. My plan was to have them come in and make it appear as though they caught me in the act of trying to hang myself. They came into the bathroom with their flashlights. I pulled the belt off the pipes, acting crazy, like I was going to attack them, cursing, telling them to get out, get the hell out. Now, these guys were about my age. I had just turned 18. They seemed pretty scared. They took off out of there, went to the officers, where all the big shot officers were, told them what was going on, and all the men came charging down the hall. I had went into the dorm where my black buddy was and told him to say I was not there and hid behind one of the lockers. All the guys came busting in the double doors and asked the black guy, where is he? And he said, he's not in here. They all turned around and went outside searching for me. I peeked out the window, and all these guys with flashlights were looking everywhere. Now, I hadn't planned this far. So, man, I don't know what to do. So I went upstairs, opened a window, and went out on this overhang above some stairs facing the street. So here I am in my boxers, trying to figure out what to do next. Then I seen these other two watchmen across the street making their rounds. So I thought I should get their attention and try to bring this thing to an end. So I broke off a piece of the roofing that I was standing on and threw it in their direction. This got them to notice me. And when I came over, I said, don't say anything. Don't tell anybody I'm up here. They replied, we have to, which is exactly what I wanted them to do. Now, these high-ranking officers are at the bottom of the stairs, and one is yelling at me to be all badass and says, you better come down before I come up there and knock you down. I knew he could not do this, so I said, come on then. Now, it really wasn't that high up. So in the ambulance, a small little red truck, kind of like for a fire, showed up. They shined the spotlight on me like I was King Kong or something. These officers below. Plus, there was someone at the window trying to get me to come back in. All of a sudden, everything just became so very funny to me. So I quickly went down into a squat, put my hands over my face, and started busting up. I mean, I could not help it, but I had my hands firmly covering my face so they could not tell I was laughing. So when I got it under control, I spit in my hands and I smeared it all over my face and pretended like I was crying. I slowly rose up and went into the window like I was broken. I was escorted into the ambulance and taken to a special barracks just off the base. I went to this large dorm with lots of beds and lots of people sleeping. Now it was about 2 a.m. when they assigned me to a bed. I remember thinking everything is going according to plan. This is until the morning came. When I woke up, it was like a scene right out of One Flew Out of the Cuckoo's Nest. Except these guys were all wearing uniforms from all four branches of the military. Right at the foot of my bed was this guy dragging across like a total zombie. These people were seriously troubled. And that's when I thought, what the hell did I do? Am I going to be stuck here? This wasn't part of the plan. I was stressing big time. I was called into an office where I spoke to a shrink. He started asking me about my life, my childhood, and at this point, I didn't really have to lie. This wasn't a long stretch for me. My past did kind of fit the criteria of a confused, lost soul who might want to commit suicide. But seriously, this was just about me trying to get out of the Navy as soon as possible. The shrink made a statement like, okay, so if I don't let you out, you're going to try to kill yourself again, right? Like he was on to me, which made me feel like he's seen this act before. Later on in the day, I was sent back to a Navy base with some barracks with a whole bunch of guys who were just about to get ready to be discharged. And that night, one of the guys, who was a Christian, was saying a little prayer and saying a few words to all of us who were the next day would be on our way home. And when he had finished, out of the clear blue sky, he says, Julio, would you like to say a few words? I tell you, there was a junk of guys in there. All of us were in double bunks. So I stood up and I said, look, fellas, when we go back home, there are going to be a lot of people saying that we were quitters, that we couldn't handle it, making us feel like losers or failures. We can't let it get to us. What we have to do is make damn sure that in 4 years from now, our original enlistment was for 4 years, that we are way better off than if we had stayed in the Navy, and we can succeed. The next day, I was on a Greyhound bus headed home. I had all my uniforms and all my pay in cash and an honorable discharge with full benefits. Man, did that Asian guy in the mess hall sure know what he was talking about. I was only gone for about 7 weeks. My hair was still really short, and I was in perfect shape. All in all, it was an amazing experience, which I will never forget. The guys I met from all over the country and some from other countries were real quality people, which gave me a better understanding about life. The truth is, the main reason I left the Navy was because I wanted to be with Linda. We had been riding each other the whole time I was in boot camp, which made me grow more fond of her. But the day before I got out, I was unable to use the phone. I was unable to reach Linda, who had not written me for a few days, but was able to talk to Isabel, her best friend. And she told me the bad news. Linda had gone back to her first boyfriend. I chilled out for a while. Then I decided I was not going to lay down and let the girl I came back for get away from me. I began going up to Wilson High School I graduated from, and where Linda was now attending. I'd see Linda all lovey-dovey with her boyfriend, and I'd walk by feeling pretty confident. They would both just look at me. Finally, I was able to catch her away from her boyfriend and ask her if I could talk to her. So she says, okay, and we took a little walk off campus. We had a long discussion in where I tried to convince her to leave her boyfriend and come back to me. To this point, I was failing. She said she was going to stay with her boyfriend and walk away. I let her get about 30 yards away when I called her name. Linda, can I just have a few more minutes? She came back and I threw my best game at her, and she caved and agreed to leave her boyfriend and come back to me. I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was sure close. When I told this story to my oldest son, Gabriel, he said, man, it was that close to me never even being born.